my body could be directed by my head. It could be directed by my desire. We have a lot of different magnets in us that can draw us to different timelines, if you want to call them, reasons we're drawn to certain things. If you have access to your energy guidance, whichever one is stronger is going to win. Mm-hmm. Now, that isn't necessarily the one that should be in control.
Hello and welcome to Curious Ones podcast by Yandara. I'm Yael Ginzburg, the host of the podcast, a yoga and meditation teacher and philosophy lover. Each week you will hear eye-opening interviews with the different teachers of the Yandara Yoga Institute located in beautiful Baja, Mexico, along with other teachers that pass through here. This life-changing knowledge shared through authentic, heartfelt communication will help you live a happier, more fulfilled, and connected life. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to Curious Ones podcast by Yandara. I'm Yael Ginzburg, and I'm so honored to have the incredible Liz Letchford with me here.
Hello.
I'll give a little bit of an intro. Liz is actually Dr. Elizabeth Letchford, who is a mentor, coach, researcher, artist of over 17 years of experience. Her background is in sports medicine, and she has a PhD in Kinesiology, thank you, and Rehabilitation Science. But her approach to health is very diverse. She utilizes movement, emotional wellness, energy work, coaching, body work, art, science. She is the body whisperer, and she is really working with healing through the creative process. Mm-hmm. So just studying Liz's work, I became so fascinated by what you do, where you're coming from, the way that you really allowed your healing to the world come from within, and you didn't take it from other modalities. So I'm just so excited to dive in. I would love to start with you kind of explaining that process, because you really went off the grid. And now that I'm seeing where you live, and I heard a little bit about your story of your recent history, I know even more that that's true. Mm-hmm. So please tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I worked on camera for 10 years, and while I was getting my PhD, and I was working for a fitness company, so I was like having to smile and also do a bunch of movements. So at every level, I was ignoring my body, even though I worked as a body expert. I personally was ignoring my body for pay and money, and because I worked for someone who told me what to do. And all of a sudden one day, I was on set and my body was just like, nah, and just collapsed. And then the next day I came in, I'm like, I was all good to go. And the second I stepped foot on that stage, I was like, I can't do it. I collapsed. And so my body was forced to have to take a rest.
Our body doesn't let us fake it.
No, I just absolutely entered into this state where so after that, I was able to access all of my emotions in my body, all of the history in my body, meaning when you just have you're like, I don't know why my shoulder is achy right now. I woke up like this and it hurt. It does that every time I'm about to take a test. I had that all the way up to level 12 and everywhere in my body because I had been numbing for so long with push, the energy of push. Mm. So I just got pummeled and had to take a rest. So I took 2 weeks off and thought that was enough, and went and actually started feeling as I was I went to Mexico and for a birthday party. And I was sitting on the beach. All my friends were like dancing and partying. And I was like, I gotta sit down. And I sat on the beach. I crossed my legs and my spine started moving itself in these S waves. And my breath started breathing itself. And I was like, the things going through my mind, I'm like, is a demon attacking me? Like, what is happening? Because I grew up Catholic, right? And I took yoga and was involved in yoga from high school on, but I wouldn't call myself a yogi. So I was like, okay, Kundalini awakening. All right, maybe that's what's happening now. And then it just sort of catapulted into this expanded awareness of everything. But in my body, I didn't have any visuals. And so my body had this huge expanded awareness. And I didn't know what to make of it because I couldn't see anything. And so my journey was this desperation for trying to see and understand the chaos of my body, the chaos of everything, and to try to quantify it, to try to like make it make sense to me. Yeah, of course. I'm like, oh, interesting data,
Yeah. What can I measure?
That's right. And so I really struggled to make sense of, I was simultaneously brave enough somehow to surrender and also afraid and also observing my fear. So I was like allowing the process. I knew it was, I call it God. I knew it was God. I knew it was spirit. I knew it was divine. And I was surrendering to this movement. And also I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm this little thing in the great cosmos. Like, I'm new here. Can someone tell me? Because I grew up in the science world. I didn't ever study any spiritual practices or anything. So I'm like, spirituality 101. What happens when you're like channeling other languages? Like, I used to laugh at this, and now I'm doing it. So it's undeniable.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I don't know if anything like that has ever happened to you, where it's just like so crazy in your body.
I don't
anyone you know?
I don't know. I wouldn't say that, but I've definitely like experienced this moment of, you grow up in a world they teach you facts, they teach you the things that you can measure, or the things that you can see and touch. And that's all that exists. And that's all that you hear about in school. And that's what the people talk about and the culture conversation is about. And for me, the biggest awakening was when I realized there's a world beyond what we can see and touch and, measure. So that was my leap into this world.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah, there is obviously a world beyond what we can see and touch and measure. And that's terrifying for people who I was there. It's terrifying. If you don't understand it, then it's not safe. And so I slowly crawled myself out of that hole of, if I don't understand it, then it's not safe. And I just like got pummeled back down of like, as soon as I would understand something, I've got it, I would get pummeled back down into something where I'm like, well, what was that?
Yeah.
And so my body was trying desperately to get me to stop thinking and to start being, and in an embodied sense. So even as I started to unwind, which came from my nervous system was shot, my adrenals were shot, because I'm now embodying all of my trauma and I didn't yet know how to get out of it. So my body was doing all these things and I could feel energy and I could let my body be danced by energy. And so I was just letting myself be danced by any energy and saying, I'm divinely guided here. But we have a lot of different magnets in us that can draw us to different timelines, if you want to call them, reasons we're drawn to certain things. So, you have an apple and a lollipop, and part of you can be deeply drawn to the apple for nourishment, and another part of you can be deeply drawn to the lollipop. And so if you have access to your energy guidance, whichever one is stronger is going to win. Now, that isn't necessarily the one that should be in control.
What does that mean? So
we have parts in us. So we all have like a little girl and a little boy. We have a king and a queen, right? We have like a protector, a dragon. We have a feminine protector, a masculine protector. And And when they merge, it's an androgynous protector. And the goal of our being, in my philosophy, is to be able to give voice to all of your parts. Now, those are 6 that I spoke, or 7 that I spoke about, but there are infinite. There are infinite parts, and you can create new parts in any moment. But I like to work with the basic archetypes. And so each of these archetypes has a personality, it has a nervous system imprint, and it has an energetic. And so think about it. When you're with a certain friend group, you might act different than when you're with your family.
Yeah.
You're in 2 different archetypes. It's not that you're inauthentic, it's just that you're drawing on a different archetype.
Is it archetypes that exist in us, or is it global, universal archetypes?
Both. I believe that we take these universal archetypes, like Jungian archetypes, and we like dress them up like we look like, you know, we put our little hat on, and maybe like, you know, the maiden wears lipstick, or, you know, we get to put our own spin on them. So it's like, it's almost like we're each a flute, and that archetype is playing through the flute, and it's going to sound, my flute's going to sound different than your flute, but it's the same energy.
That's such a beautiful analogy. Gorgeous. I also think of like us just as humans as that way. I've heard the analogy of being a wave as part of the ocean. You know, you can see the wave as individual, but you can't say that it's separate from the ocean.
I deeply believe that. Yeah, we are individual and we are collective.
Yeah.
And so that was confusing, you know, for when I was like, but I'm a scientist. Like, what is going on? But I eventually, from feeling it in my body, got to feel what felt true for me. And I watched as my judgments, my this or that, or my that is bad, caused me suffering, because I had to then embody in myself something that is good and something that is bad. I had to work through power dynamics within myself and change myself from the inside out, because I was connected to a power. I believe I was connected to a power that decided to have influence over me, decided to command me, decided to negotiate with me. And that was terrifying, because I was like, oh, that's God, you know, it's telling me what to do. It was my brain. And so my mind is filling in the blanks, as it does. You know, you've got all those little tests where it's you look back and forth really quickly, and your mind will actually fill in the blanks. It's in a movie or in a picture. What are they called? Like the little eye puzzles. That's your brain. The power of your brain to create is vast. So when it came to my body, I realized that my brain was creating the sensation in my body. So it was creating the movement if I wanted it to. It wasn't necessarily me interacting with my environment. It was my idea of the environment. So my brain was controlling my body. My brain's energy, because our thoughts are so powerful. Our intentions are so powerful. They can actually move and manipulate, and we see it all the time. I was doing that to myself. So then I was like, okay, let's get out of the head into the body. And then I went on this whole curriculum of like, oh, my erotic power. So now I'm connected to Eros as a source, or our erotic, like the force that brings us together to heal and to merge and to take the division and put it into unison. And so I was like, cool, I'm going to learn about Eros, and I'm going to, you know, sink down lower. And I was like a snake, belly to the earth and feeling everything. And then I realized over and over again, I was watching as people who are really dedicated devoted to like listening to that erotic energy, their lives were pretty much miserable. You know, on the outside, it was like you have power, you have wealth, you have exciting things happening, and your energy is guiding you to learn lessons. And it's really clear, like the lessons are hard for you. There's not a lot of grace here. So I was observing that. I started observing that in myself, where I'm like, I'm really learning things the hard way. Is necessary? Am I just erotically attracted to the thing that I need to learn?
Such a good question.
Right. Is this necessary?
Yeah.
And for some of us, yeah, if you're in your head, for sure you're going to get lessons so hard. And so I watched as my body could be directed by my head. It could be directed by my desire. And then I watched as my heart cracked open and I fell in love with someone. And the guidance from your heart is, it's just stillness, and it's just like beautiful, still, calm awareness. And so from this whole like collapse into disaster, I really was embodying chaos. My adrenals were shot. I didn't know which way was up. I grappled with my ego every day and had to like look at it and humble myself again. And which is why I moved away from my friends, my community in LA, because I was just creating disasters by trying to embody and learn, but no one was in that dojo with me, you know? They were just living their normal lives, and I was so I needed to get by myself and get still and be in nature and create. And so I'm really excited to see, so that was recent, and I'm really excited to see this next chapter where if I have temperance and I can watch and control my erotic desires, like what the like earth and like the like healing energy is drawing out of me, if I can temper or be aware of my mind's drive and like, you're brilliant, thank you, like such a genius, and have the heart be the commander in chief of my army of me, that is going to be, I just have a lot of hope and that it's going to, I mean, I don't know, I guess I can't tell. I'm like, that's what I'm doing. I don't even have a hope about it. I can imagine that it's going to be really powerful.
Wow, that is just fascinating. I feel like just what you said now has so much depth in it. And I love that you're really trusting life. It feels like you are letting go of the patterns of what is the obvious choice and also the easy choice.
Easy. So easy.
It's like, hey, we have to take the hard way. Let's do it. But when you're guided by the heart, it feels in a way that, I mean, I can relate to this in a lot of ways. When you're guided by the heart, it feels that you are held and guided in the right place, because the mind doesn't always, like, the mind can try to figure out what's the right move for me,
right,
but the heart knows.
Isn't that true? It just knows. It just knows. It's just an instant, yep. And if the heart closes because the body is like, uh-oh, I'm scared, then the other two start to kind of like put their hand in the sock puppet, so to say, and you can go off, you know. I actually believe, so in Christianity, there's this word called sin. And I actually think of it as just meaning off path. And that it's not evil. It's just like, it's okay. You're just off, you know, off of your heart's path. And so I'm working on reinterpreting the religion, the text rather, that I grew up with, and the parables and the beauty of my heritage and my culture, and hoping to reimagine it and reinterpret it in a way that is relevant and honest and personal to me. Not in saying like this is the way that it is, but like here's how those teachings live in my body. Because all along that journey, where I was being guided by my head, you know, am I like channeling, you know, a demon? Like, what's going on? And it was just my emotions, my younger wounded parts that needed to be expressed. But because of all of the scriptures, all of the exorcisms, all of the scary movies had this particular body movement, you know, wild, crazy movements, and called them demonic, my mind was like, watching and being like, I'm a demon, you know, like what the, and so, but some bigger, my I am presence just watched as as the mind was trying to categorize that. You know, my erotic desire was definitely wanting to go there, and that was the war. The war was with the mind and my desire to heal. And so when my heart got involved, it was like the heart is like mommy and daddy. It's like, I got you. You know, like we can hold this as you fight, and I love you. You know, you can just look at each other and realize you're the same, or you can be a brat. That's fine. And so that's what I felt like my whole, and all happening inside of me, which is wild.
Wow.
And so it was just a really powerful experience to start to separate out myself and take a look at myself from all of these different characters.
Beautiful. You created this, how would you call it, like a modality or a healing
a movement
called Body Church.
Yes.
And I'm sure you drew on your heritage and all that you grew up with. I heard that you have been involved in the church and you were in the singing choir and all of that. And you made it its own or your own healing modality. I would love to hear you speak a little bit about that and how through this movement that you've mentioned already, how do you start to really reconcile the mind and the urges, the erotic urges that you mentioned, and how do you, like, how does this process work? I mean, this podcast is listened to by people from all around the world. I know they can tune in on Zoom with you. But when somebody starts to kind of, I feel like the beginning is to kind of understand something in our awareness, and then it can feel safer to go into the body and allow for this weirdness to come out.
So weird.
How did you do that?
Oof. Just like any great work, it starts by, it was the thing that person needed, that one founder needed. And so I was slumped over one day in my bedroom, exhausted, being kind of driven by my erotic desire to heal my physical body. And I just thought, if this is God, if this is my nature, my body wants to heal, why is it harming me? And then I just noticed that I couldn't breathe. My breath was so shallow. And I was like, if my breath is shallow, it means that there's attacks on my nervous system. And instead of just resting and shallow breathing until I was done resting, I was like, what if I breathed really deep and then let that guide my movements instead of letting my movements drive me? So I just had this let me try this thing. And I started breathing really slow and really deep. And all of my teaching, all of my lessons from what the diaphragm is, what the nervous system is, what happens when you dome and release your diaphragm, physiologically speaking, anatomically speaking, all of that came back. And I just watched as I was allowing now this integration of my nervous system to drive my unwinding, my emotional terror. I didn't then get run away in the trauma, run away in the memory. It's almost like an embodied flashback. And instead, I watched and I allowed that, because that was being driven by this long, slow breath. I watched as I had a choice. I could not guide by the breath and just let the body guide, and I would run away in the past, basically a memory of a trauma, to just try and complete it. But that little girl is not resourced enough. Or I could leave my body and dissociate. Or there was this middle way, which was, okay, let's, guided by the breath, go in just to the present moment enough that we see what from the past is here, and we don't go back to the past. We keep you in the present and say, now from this state of calm, loving awareness, can we complete this cycle? Can we complete
What does that
this
mean?
movement?
How does that look like?
So, for example, in my, I'll talk physical first. So in my spine, there was this like neck thing that wanted to crack. And if I just let my body, it would be like really like aggressive. Because it wasn't going slow enough to actually feel what was there. So when I let my breath guide me, it's like the slowest, most yummy movement. And then if I go slow enough, my arm will get involved, and then my back will get involved. And then all of a sudden my shoulder will crack and my neck will find relief instead of me trying to crack my neck. So it's slowing down to the subtleties and almost like zooming in on now in your body. And does that make sense?
It makes so much sense to me. So much sense. I talk about this all the time in like yoga classes. I see people doing the movement just to do the movement, like to check it. Right. Yeah, I did it.
Right.
But you miss so much when you rush through it. And I find myself telling people, slow down. Okay, we're going to do that again. Just slow. Yeah. Because, like we're not used to it. So it makes total sense.
And that's because it's our mind driving our body. And so when we can like observe the mind actually like marionette wiring driving the body. I mean, the mind, I'm telling my hand like, hey, touch that wall. My hand doesn't want to touch the wall. My hand wants to do this,
Yeah, that's what we think we need to do.
That's right. Yeah. And that is what's creating our entire reality, starting with our physical body, where we are, what we're doing, what we're grabbing, like the way we touch people. So from this awareness, I started working with individuals and guiding them because I could feel the energy between us. So if they were touching me and they were touching me out of, I want you, or I'm afraid of you, but I'm touching you, or let me give you a hug, but actually it's me that needs a hug. Like any of these, like, don't touch me with that. I was able to then coach people into their center, and then to be able to interact and touch, actually physically touch and handle people, their partners with a deeply expanded awareness. So this same principle goes into every category of our life, from how we eat, how we make love, how we heal, how we build community, how we have relationships with our friends. My relationships got so yummy because I could no longer hang out with people who couldn't be authentic, who couldn't hold my whatever I was going through. And so my friend group got really small, but so deep. And from there, we started creating art together. My dear friend Rachel, so if anybody goes to my Instagram, she's all over my Instagram. She's my somatic dance partner. And we create art because she was able to unwind into her somatic intelligence too. And she goes so slow. And so, yeah, it's just the slow is now. Like this, if the slower you go down, you like create more time in now. And more awareness in now. And it's healing.
I find that we are so disconnected from, I don't know another way to say it, but other than just our truth and our natural like life rhythm that flows through us, because we're so in our head. As you said, like it's really all the points are connecting for me of what you're saying, because we are so in our head and so like, I need to do this. This is the right thing. This is the wrong thing. People like me do things like this. I need to go be a doctor because that's what's considered good. We're so in our mind of what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do, and so disconnected from our true expression of who we are, that I find that's why there's so much illness and disease in so many people. And we're going to speak about that in a moment. But really, the breath is our access point to the present moment.
Yes.
And to sensation, because if we just tune in to what we're feeling, our body is telling us everything we need to know.
Right.
but we're so not used to even asking our body
Right.
or checking in with our body. We just like glide right past it because we're going too fast, or we're not aware of it, or we're not even paying attention. And that small action, I was just writing a text yesterday that when I close my eyes and take a breath, I make better decisions.
For sure. For sure.
It's just a little moment of tuning into my internal guidance, and it really takes us everywhere we need to go. I would love to expand on disease because, like I just said a moment ago, I find that maybe 80%, and I think I'm being cautious with that number, of people have some sort of disease or discomfort in their body. And you speak a lot about where that comes from. So can you explain, please?
I mean, what do I know? But from what I've observed, or at least the avenue that I watch is unprocessed emotions. If we are afraid to remember something in our body, we're afraid to feel a heightened sensation, and that could be the biggest love or the deepest grief, deepest pain. We will start to shut down our capacity to experience that energy. But the energy is still there, and it's still affecting your system. And so it needs to express itself in a different way. If you're not allowing it to move through your body, you're not allowing it to move out as an expression or as art, as a creative, get that out, transmute it, it's going to express itself. And so disease is like this maniacal art of energy that just needs to be expressed. Disease as art. Dr. Letchford.
The dark side of the art.
Sure. Like the dark arts are just disease, actually. But it is kind of that same energy. It's like if you don't express it as art, it's going to come out, it's going to be expressed. And the way that your body creates art is by saying, here's what I'm experiencing right now. I'm experiencing energy that is too hot for my system. It's angry, it's fiery. And so then you get a rash or you get inflammation. And this is all an ecosystem. So it's what environment we're in, what toxins are in our environment, and that can include relationships, what you're consuming. Everything that you're consuming is affecting your body. That's it. Everything you're consuming is in some way affecting your body. And so the food you eat, of course, the amount of water you drink, the type of the clarity of the water that you drink, that all has a huge impact on your system. And so that's all energy that you're consuming that is going to, if it throws your system off balance, is going to sound the alarm enough to be like, hey, feel me, and then figure it out, bring me into balance. And if we slow down enough, our bodies will, in their own way, tell us what we need. If we can not be driven by our erotic attraction to the lollipop, right? Or our minds like, I shouldn't eat at all. I should starve myself. When we listen to the heart's like apple, like actually you really just want an apple. That is when we can heal. So it's the awareness of the ways that our energetic, our emotional body, our physical body, and our mind all work together in this coordinated system. They are just layers of the same system. But if we only have access to one of those, the mind, most of us, right, then we abandon the rest of the systems, which are potent and powerful. So that's, in a nutshell, how I think that unexpressed emotions can really manifest as disease and disorder.
Hey, I'm quickly interrupting the episode to extend an invitation. If you are interested in deepening into any of the subjects we talk about on the podcast, we offer many different experiences on our beautiful grounds here in Baja, Mexico. From 9-day modules such as sound healing and yoga nidra, to breath and meditation, as well as 200 or 300-hour yoga teacher trainings and many different shorter retreats. Check out our website, Yandara.com, to see all the information about the different experiences. Let's get back to the episode.
So you mentioned a little bit that the way that we start to realize what's happening is by slowing down, and that the body will tell us. I would love for the people listening to be able to start that process within themselves.
Yeah.
How would
Do
you
you want me to
guide
teach?
someone?
Do you want me to teach
Yes,
one?
please.
Okay, so I'll teach you.
Yeah.
So
I happen to have inflammation in my hip, so I'm like the perfect student.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So the first thing is to presence yourself to the room that you're in and the place that you're in. Sometimes when we're not even in our bodies, we can really like we're not even capturing memories of our present moment.
Yes.
So just like noticing things in the room, feeling the walls holding you, feeling contained, feeling grounded. I like to imagine energy from the ground rooting up and out, and then energy from the sky rooting down and into the ground. So it's almost like this like centering pillar from above and below, versus like a root system going down first. You know, I actually like this. So if that resonates, then go for it. And then it's the breath. So it is simply in through your nose, really long breath all the way to full. And then through pursed lips all the way to empty. And you can like, yeah. And let's do a couple breaths like that. So all the way into full. And you'll notice if you go too slow, then you're like, you like run out of breath at the end. Or so there's this perfect pace where you can fill all the way up and fill and empty all the way out without losing your breath. And even just being present with that breath, it starts to expand a little bit. So the second part of this practice is actually the awareness of the tension in your breath. So as you pull in, you might notice like it's really easy to breathe in, and then it gets a little harder, and then we meet a lot of resistance, and I have to like in order to fill up, right? So let's see now, let's do 2 breaths where you're just observing as the straw gets smaller on the way in, and then same on the way out where I have to like really push the air out. So you're mapping your resistance.
Right at the end.
And so I like to conceptualize the inhale and the tension within the inhale as what's in the way of you becoming exactly what your heart wants you to be in this moment. And on the exhale, what's in the way of you surrendering to whatever that was so that you may fill up in the next moment.
So as we're doing this breath, we're asking those questions.
Just being aware of, oh, this is what this represents. So you don't necessarily need to have an answer, but just know that, oh, the tension in my body, the resistance that I'm feeling is something in the way of me showing up in my full self, in my full presence. But you don't need the story. Your body is now going to do the story. So the third part of this breath is, if we were to sit here and breathe all day, we would have a whole body that was like we were ignoring, because the way that we meet and express these energies is through the body. And so it'll look, so I'm going to go into the movement that whatever's in my body right now. So you breathe. So I'm going to do the full breath in, full breath out. But as soon as I meet the resistance in my breath, I'm going to match it with resistance in my body and allow my body to unwind. So it'll look something like this. And so you just start getting these beautiful shapes that exist in nature as your body starts accessing the emotions embodied so that they can finally be expressed. So they've been called mudras, they've been called, but it's like, that never resonated with me. So I'm just like, oh, this is an energy that shows up in nature. This is beautiful. So would you like to try it one time?
Yes. Let's do it.
Okay, so we'll do it together. So you're going to breathe in through your nose. And as soon as you meet the resistance, just start to squeeze your muscles. Yeah. But keep breathing in, keep breathing in, keep breathing in, keep breathing in. And so when you feel that tension, you're going to match it with the resistance in your body. And then same on the way out. So we're not holding the breath. It's a constant inhale and exhale. And then when two people do it together, they start to create this little dance. And so, we're dancing together in whatever's in this in between us right now. And so just allowing the energies, just like the flowers outside are doing this all day long, they're blooming and they're wilting and they're opening and they're closing. They're just expressing, they're like the art of the world. All, the world is just an expression. So.
Yeah, and it allows itself to express freely. And oh my God, that was so fun.
Okay, so now how does your breath feel? Now map the tension in your breath again. Yeah, map the tension in your breath again and see if you made a shift. Oh, I definitely did. Feels good.
For sure.
Yeah.
I feel expanded.
Yeah.
I feel expanded, and I have to say, like, because we're on camera, I don't think I'm letting myself
of course
completely express the movement, but I can imagine, or I can see how freeing it, because the moment I closed my eyes, the moment I allowed the movement to express in my body, I felt that it was guiding me. Because when you were doing it, I was like, why are her arms telling her to do that? Why is her chest lifting? Like, where does that come from? The moment I did it myself, it just happened.
Cool.
It just happened.
Yeah.
And it really, like, I can feel this so much. I've been really curious about this lately, about how we hold ourselves back from truly expressing ourselves, truly being ourselves. We hide away the parts of ourselves that we think that we need to hide. We show the parts of ourselves, or even create parts of ourselves that we think we're supposed to show. And how that truly takes us away from everything that we long for. And for me, it connects in the way that you teach your body that it's okay to express everything that it wants and needs, and really, like, is supposed to express. And through the movement, correct me if this is off, but through the movement of the body, you learn how to express your life.
That's right.
Wow.
And then so your life now, if you're unable to express your life because your back is tweaked or your knee is tight, or I don't know why, but my ankles have always been, that is going to influence your ability to express and create in your life. And so this practice, allowing yourself to unwind, my life is a living example of that. I came from nothing, and I was able to, from the like dissolution and the dissolution of my identity, my being, my creative expression, or what I thought it was at that time, I was just like, I've got nothing. And then I thought that I was going to be confined to a mental institution, if anyone saw what I was doing, or I was like, I've lost my friends, I've lost everything, my job, everything. And went through that dark night of the soul and crawled my way to the point where I'm like, oh, there's the light. And now I'm finally blooming my way out and being like, this is the unique flower that I am. And I don't care that you're a tree. I'm not a tree. I'm a this flower, and I don't care that you're a that flower. That's dope. Like, please be the best that flower that you can be. I'm a this flower. And so I wasn't able to do that. I was like, well, what does the tree want me to be? You know, or like, why can't I be that flower? Or like, you know, it's just like, we all do that all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm really dedicated to being like, what is my expression? What is my flower? You know, maybe it's a weed, maybe it's a garden weed. And that's okay too, because we need that. That's an expression. And so to be able to give her, my little girl, the magic wand and be like, go ahead. What do you want to create? Because you're wiser than me. You're so much smarter than me. I'll protect you. But like, your creative power is so magnificent and so incredible. And so when we can finally start to tune into those parts and actually have conversations with them, either in our bodies or in our imaginations, we can start to do the dance with ourselves first, and then we can invite someone else in. And that is what is going to build and tether these beautiful communities together, because it's driven by the heart. It's not driven by an erotic attraction to like fame and fortune. It's not driven by like, we should live here because we're supposed to and it makes sense. It's like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And if tomorrow I'm supposed to be somewhere else, great. Like, currently I'm quite literally selling everything I own in Santa Barbara, California, and moving to London because I need to be there. And so all of these things and worlds that I've created, it's like, okay, that's fine. Put the toys back in the toy box. Someone else can enjoy them. I'm going to go make a new playground.
Yeah.
So, and I could have never done that 2 years ago. I'd have been like, absolutely not. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Everyone else is going to da-da-da-da-da-da.
Doesn't make sense.
But like, this flower wants to be in London. She's a London rose. Darling.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. You were just telling me about this journey that you're going on, but I would love for you actually to tell us about what brought you to this place. You were telling me that you came to Santa Barbara and you experienced a death and a rebirth.
Oh, yes.
You even told me, if I hope it's okay that I'm saying this, that you took out a business loan to allow for this space. And what I find so beautiful about that is that you resourced your business loan to actually your personal development and growth as a human being. And that is totally the biggest investment that we can have in our business or put in our business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. So I needed a space that was safe and quiet, that I could take up as much space as I needed to, that no one would judge me for going through my process, because I knew what I was going through was not necessarily only a mental health crisis. You know, I was just working through my trauma. And so when I was doing that and other people were watching, they were like, mania, schizophrenia, bipolar, like literally they were trying to categorize me so that they could understand, because I was in embodied chaos.
I'm just going to stop you there because I think that this is important. I find that a lot, I'm not everything, but a lot of the mental health, what we call disorders, are just, we don't know how to understand it and deal with it. So we're like, crazy, let's put them in inside.
It's not. It's all, you look at anything. I mean, even narcissism is just an under-resourced energy in you. And so all of it is able to be overcome. We're just not looking in the right places.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we can't heal it with talk therapy. We can't heal it with this. We can't heal it with medication.
Let's give them medication.
Yeah, it's no, you need to be brave enough to be the wall in their storm so that they can actually go into the depths of the terror and the depths of the ouch, and then expand into the depths of the yes that their body is deeply seeking with all of their behaviors. So I was in this state. I was one of those people who now I understand, or I'm like, I know what's going on. Come here. But I didn't have that person. So I, for whatever reason, was brave enough and mental enough, like my mental capacity enough to observe as I was going through. So I was having a mental, spiritual, emotional crisis, and also observing the mental, spiritual, emotional crisis. and feeling it in my body. Like, okay, when I have this belief, my body does this, and I desire to express this. And what does that mean? And so I was taking notes, and while I was unraveling, really just unraveling all of my childhood trauma, all of my limiting beliefs, which were many, and all of society's impositions upon me that I was agreeing to. And so I was here. Yeah, I took out a business loan because I'm like, well, for sure I'm not working. I cannot hold space for somebody. So I was lucky enough to be able to be granted a business loan to be able to really take care of myself. And yeah, along the way, I just started, left to my own devices, creating art. And I was never really, I guess I was an actor, a little sort of, and like played music. But now that I am absolutely an artist, I was not an artist. I was just like, my brain was playing the music. My soul and my heart weren't playing the music. But it was like tapping on the door. So I went through the dark night of the soul, which is not just a one-time thing. It's this like roller coaster of constant dying, deaths and rebirths. Yeah. And every time I thought, oh, I finally made it out of it, I would get humbled again with another limiting belief. And so it made me really watch where my decisions are coming from. If my decisions are coming from my mind, I have to ask my heart, like, what do you think? And it'll be like, I don't think you should do that. And I'm like, and so then that's another death. So I have to kill that idea. So I've had it
the hard way.
That's right. It's all until it's not. Until like the idea of what's hard, like to some, selling all of your possessions and moving overseas, it would be the hard way. And for me, I'm like, oof, like it's not without stress, but I'm not in. I'm having an interview right now, and I'm moving across the country in a couple days. Like it's not causing me a lot of stress. So I'm actually like the celebration of like every little item I sell, and like it's almost a ceremony. Wow. So I started to see every moment in my life, every interaction as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to be grateful, to be devotional. And so I created this ceremony of life. Now, that was difficult when I then went back into society, and I was like in the grocery store and like all the music at the, and so I was like, all right, back into the cocoon. And I had to start slowly like unplugging from my tools and my crystals and my oils so that I could actually be grounded. And the moment that happened was I finally resourced my inner king, my divine he, and he could hold me. So I then had this, I imagine it as like a net around me that that is able to expand, but just holds me together. And because of my past, because of collective beliefs of what king really is, I had taken out like harmonious king and replaced it with every leader, every father, every like man that ever said he was a king, but had this other energy underneath. And so I was like, that's what I was doing to myself. As I was trying to hold myself, I was doing the same thing that the people that had imprinted upon me had done. So I had to, first of all, admit to that. That's me. It is them too, but it's me more. That's me. Good luck with your life. It's not your fault. And move through it and then emerge and from the inside find who my king is. And now my king dresses like David Bowie and Prince and loves to be really grounded and still and like loves for the feminine to just be as wild and chaotic as possible. But I'm not afraid of it. I don't want to own it. I want to direct it and keep it safe. I'm proud of it. And I'm not jealous of it. And so all of those things, I had this revelation as I saw through the eyes of my internally resourced king. Oh, this is what I have been desiring. I knew it existed. And I understand from the eyes of the king why it would be tempting to possess that, or to quiet that, or to limit it, or to own it, or to misdirect it, or be scared of it. But because I know what it's like to be the chaos, this king doesn't want to do any of that because I know what she needs and I know her power. So from the inside out, I got to feel the true, we can call it divine masculine, divine feminine, or king, queen, whatever you want to call it, giving, receiving, holding, chaos. It's the container and the magic, right? And I got to find that within myself. And now I can go into Target, and while it's not my favorite place in the universe, I am not, because my king has got me. And 2 weeks after coronating my king for my birthday, I had a king's coronation dinner. 2 weeks later, I fell in love, and I found somebody who I could really see as being a king, a potential king.
Wow.
So that is the journey that I'm in right now. And so highly recommend the inner marriage first, and to watch as your outer world will start to reflect the inner world. And so I would say I'm the president of me. I'm the president of my one kind, like, nation of myself. And so imagine if we just have a nation of sovereign beings, a nation of, like, it's like a United Nations meeting right now, where I'm like, well, I have my king and queen. I'm not threatened by you, but I'm curious, and so we can start to have these conversations that aren't hooky at all, or I don't need you in a relationship. And it's like, you plug into the place that I'm missing.
Yeah.
So it's devastating if they leave. When you're wholly resourced, WHOLLY, and also HOLY, I guess.
Yeah.
You just really hold everything with an open palm.
Wow. It sounds to me like it's truly, in the end, it's the integrating all parts of yourself and allowing for also representation of all parts of yourself. Because you mentioned that the thing that gave you safety was your inner king. As a woman, that's not maybe the typical thing to think of,
right?
But allowing for even the masculine side of yourself to take, and I guess that would be different for every person, what they have more of and less of, and their history and childhood and all of that. But it just sounds like it's really about integrating and allowing space for any expression in all parts of yourself.
It's true. It's true. And you'll watch the body change. You'll watch your hormones change. You'll watch your fascia change as you start to allow the harmonious expression of these archetypes versus the, like, ones that are stuck and angry.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love talking to you so much. I feel like I learned so much, and there were so many, like, in Hebrew you say the penny dropped. Would you say that? Like a lot of understanding and things that clicked into place. Just to wrap everything up, I feel like you're the perfect person to ask about this. This is what I end each episode with. And that's, what are you curious about right now?
I'm curious about, we're going to go deep, Christianity.
Go deep.
I'm curious about Christianity and because any spiritual practice, there's always an embodiment practice. There has to be, the pure form, like, and so just curious where that got lost, where the embodied Christianity got lost, and where is that, and how did it? Because there is a pure, I believe, and I don't know, but there is a pure, like, tradition that this is derived from. I'm remembering it. And yeah, I'm just really, I have way more questions than I do answers. And I'm just like, where are those texts, and what happened, and what's the story, and why? And is this just a rebalancing, or is something missing? And so that's what I'm most curious about right now.
It's interesting because also when I'm thinking of Judaism and actually maybe a lot of the religions, it really is mostly about the mental, intellectual aspects of it. And in a lot of the practices, it's even like the body becomes something that we need to hide, that we need to protect, that it's an unsafe place. You know, Judaism, the women need to wear a wig and cover themselves, and also in Islam.
Right.
And, you know, the body becomes something that you're worried about. And I mean, I would guess that, and they all derive from the same place, and I would guess it's somewhere there. But what I was thinking about before when you were talking about is like yoga. We all know the physical practice of yoga, the asana practice. And when we learn about what yoga is, we learn that the physical practice is only a vehicle
Right.
for the spiritual practice.
Right, right.
So it really was connecting what you practice, or the way that you practice, really connected with that.
Yeah.
Maybe in a more like free way than what I see the yoga practice, even though it can also be very free. I don't know, that's just the things that came up for me.
Yeah, no, that was really revelatory, you know, of like, yeah, maybe this culture was so in their mind that they found, you know, that divine guidance, but it was really just the mind, you know, but where is the anchor into the body, the Shekinah, you know, where is that force that brings us together? So there's, it's again, more questions than answers, but previously I was like, I'm not interested in religion. And now I'm like, wow, we have all these ancient people for thousands of years who have been studying and documenting, and so I came at it from a different way, which was like, I know nothing, and here's what, in this modern, you know, like California girl finding herself and interacting with these gifts. Okay, now let me go on the journey and see, from me knowing what my flower looks like. Oh, that's a dope flower. I like it. Not for me, but you know. So cool. Thank you.
Beautiful. Liz, thank you so much. This was fascinating, and I will urge anybody listening, I'm going to put all the links to your website and Instagram and all of that in the show notes. Check out her work. You can connect with her over Zoom and practice with her over Zoom. And I can't wait to see what else you create.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Now, after this time to nurture your mind and your spirit, we invite you to take a moment to consider others. A kind wish might come to mind. Know that what we learn becomes more valuable when we apply it and share it with others. So share this episode on Instagram stories, tag Yandara and I, or share with a loved one so that more people can benefit from it. Our hope is that the search will lead you home, to who you already are, to what was always there. We'll be back next week with more inspiration, honest conversation, and insight into the energetic world around us. Thank you for listening and watching.